Welcome back from that feature on widowhood. Yes, just the word widowhood, it almost sends chills down one's spines, but that is some people's reality. Yes, some people, that's what they have to face every day, according to what we saw on that feature. There are lots of challenges that widows face. Now, I have Dr. Charity Obole. She's the president, Treasured Widows and Youth Association. She's right here in the studio with me. Welcome, Dr. Charity Obole.
Thank you very much.
It's good to have you in the studio. Now, we will be discussing breaking the stigma, ending stigma and discrimination against widows.
Thank you very much.
I said just the word widowhood is heavy. And it's some people's reality. It's not something you sit and wish for yourself, but eventually it happens. Can you tell me, since we're talking about stigma and discrimination, can you tell me some of the common stigma and discriminations that widows face in our society?
Thank you very much. Widows face a lot of stigma and discrimination. And I, as a person, I have faced a lot of stigma and discrimination. And some of these stigmas is, one, the fact that you are a widow. Some people just feel maybe you are responsible for the death of your husband, or you caused it, or one thing or the other. Some face challenges like that.
Okay.
And another challenge that people face is hardship. When you are married and you have your family together, many people come to you. Many people you relate with, either because of your husband or because of yourself. But as soon as the man dies, everybody turns back. They don't come again. They don't even want to assist you in any way. So you face the life yourself. And also, when you go to places, some people don't even want to associate with you at all. In functions, in visitation, even in some roles that you played before, people feel, now she's a widow. We don't need to associate with her like before. And for the married ones, some even think that when you relate with them, you are there to take their husband. And so they don't want you near.
They give you that distance.
Yes, they don't want you near so that you don't take away their husbands. So that are some of the challenges that widows, and many more.
All right. Today is international. Today, Monday, is the day we celebrate widows. It's the International Widows Day, and that is why we are bringing this conversation your way. Now, back to my guest. How does our culture as Africans? Okay. All right. Okay. Today is the International Day. We remember and honor widows. Yes, today, Monday, is the International Widows Day, and that is why we're bringing this conversation in a way of honoring the widows amongst us. Or if you know any widow, it's time to stretch out that helping hand towards her. Does our culture have this role it plays in the way widows are being treated?
Very well. In Nigeria, there are so many cultures in different areas. Sometimes, after the death of your husband, when people think maybe you are responsible, there are cultures that even say you must drink the water, they'll bath the husband and say you will drink it to show that, no, you are not responsible. A dead body, they ask you to drink, they wash with water and ask you to. However, I did not face such thing.
No, you're a widow yourself.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So some other culture will say you must swear and say, you, how can you be living with a man for years? You have children with that man, and then you will be responsible for his death. Death is something that is just inevitable, not caused by you. And so many women that face that type of challenge, they face it. Okay. They face it squarely.
So tell us how you have coped or are still coping with the challenges that widowhood presents. Because I know there's child upbringing, there's bills to pay. How do you do all of this? How do you cope?
For me, it's the grace of God and the beauty, just the mercy of God. I have children, and by the grace of God, I was a civil servant before my retirement. Okay. And because I'm a working class lady, I was able to pay their school fees, train them, and today, most of them are also grown up and they are working in one way or the other. And so many people did not really come to my aid, just some few people. Okay. Like my brother-in-law, he tried, okay. He thinks about us, he sent messages to us, I can't count them. Okay. But when my husband was alive, there were so many coming to the house.
I can understand
looking
that.
after us, relating with us. As soon as he's gone, that's the end.
I can understand that. So, being a widow yourself and the president, Treasured Widows and Youth Associations, what can you say should be done to make the widow's life much more bearable, to make her life and that of her kids, better?
That association, the formation of it is just to give comfort to widows. I hear a lot of stories, things that happen to widows, how they are sidelined, how they are not treated well, how people ignore them. And I decided to form an association where once in a while we call them together, ask people in the society to assist them, help them, give them one thing or the other. That's Treasured Widows precisely. What we do every February, 14th of February, Valentine's Day, because the husbands are gone, no one to take you for Valentine. And that is the mission of that association. We gather some widows together, show them love. You also can enjoy Valentine in our own small way. Then we keep them, feed them, teach them skills that don't just be vulnerable. You can do something for yourself. You just don't sit and be begging and be asking people. Do something so that you can achieve, because you can really, really, really take care of your children, take care of yourself, even in a time like this.
Okay. All right. So what would be your parting words to widows out there, or to women generally, because widowhood is not something you plan for, it can just happen. Yeah. So let's have your advice to women out there.
My advice to women out there is that you must stand well. If you are not educated, education has no age limit. Go train yourself, work. Don't be too dependent. Work for yourself and then train your children. Take care of them. Remember, your husband is gone. The good thing is that you must show that even at his death, you are taking care of his children. Don't abandon them. Don't leave them. It is not your making. It has happened. So face the life challenge and become a better person.
Thank you so much, Dr. Charity Ogbole, for coming on the program.
Thank you.
We'll take a break now, and then when we come back, Good Morning Abuja will continue. So please go nowhere. Stay with us. It's always a pleasure to know that you're with us on Good Morning Abuja. Yes, we bring you different conversations every day, and today's conversation promises to be interesting as it has to do with food. We who are foodies, the moment we hear about food, there's like a bell that is being rung in our heads, and we're like, "Ding, it's food time." All right. That was on a lighter note. My guest is engineer Abayomi Onosonya, and he is Global Director, Africa House. And we will be discussing creating a healthy food value chain in Nigeria. It's always a pleasure to have you in the studio, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
All right. So, help our guests, our viewers rather, understand what we will be looking at today, creating a healthy food value chain in our country.
All right. Good morning, Abuja. Good morning, Nigeria. Thank you for having me. Health, they say, is wealth.
Yes.
And in order for us to be wealthy, you have to relate, how wealthy you are to the quality of the food that you eat, And if you look at the current food value chain that we have in Nigeria, the value chain is plagued with a lot of challenges in terms of the quality, how the food is handled, and even the food itself. So it's imperative for us to restructure the current food value chain because for us to be productive, we need to get the right amount of nutrients in our bodies, especially for the young ones that are growing up. We need to ensure that whatever they consume is able to nourish them, not malnourish them, because it has become a myth now in Nigeria of today to talk about three balanced, the three square meals they call it. Now people do one square meal, and in fact somebody said humorously that it's God that balances our diet these days. You understand? So we need to. So it's important for us to make some changes and of course ensure that the little we have can nourish us and give us that ability to work properly, because if you don't eat well you can't think well, and if you can't think well you cannot be productive. So our food value chain has a whole lot of adjustments that has to be made to make it where it's supposed to be. You go to different markets, you see the way food is being handled, you see our market women, the way they handle food. You go to, in fact, an average market in Nigeria for that matter, you see flies buzzing around the whole place, and then you begin to wonder like, hey, is this not the same country where they say food is expensive, and then people say, oh, no, I cannot afford it, and then you see a lot of food being wasted actually, because more than 50% of the harvest that we get from the farm goes to waste because of spoilage. And you begin to wonder, why are we spoiling food when we do not even have enough food to eat? It's almost like an irony, like, hey, what's going on here? Yes. Food is expensive, but 50% of the food is being wasted. You begin to wonder what's going on. So these are some of the things we'll discuss today to see how we all can work together to ensure that food is affordable, is accessible, and very, very healthy, to ensure that we have a productive nation.
So the moment you mentioned wastage, I just remembered a time I was passing through Benue, and the amount of fruits I saw. Wow. There's so much fruits in the market, so much when you're passing, you see trees and fruits just wasting away on the ground, getting spoiled. Anyway, I'm sure you would address that. What do you consider the key components of a healthy food value chain?
Well, in order to say any particular value chain, especially food is healthy, is number one, the food has to be clean. That means free of pathogens and disease-causing organisms, because it will shock you to know that more than 90% of the diseases or ailments that people treat is somehow related to food, especially in Nigeria of today. And I'll give a very good example. There's something called aflatoxins. Aflatoxins are basically disease-causing organisms that damages the human liver and, of course, ultimately causes cancer. And this particular thing has been infecting a lot of Africans or Nigerians for a long time, until we finally realize that, hey, this is what's causing the food. And aflatoxin, comes basically, it infects food products when you see all those molds on food. And in those days, they just wash it off and eat. And some people would even tell you, no, don't worry, just cook it very well. But unfortunately, aflatoxins does not even go with cooking. It does not. So the only way you can avoid that is by actually avoiding it altogether. So, and most Nigerians and market women and food handlers don't even know what aflatoxin is. They don't know what it looks like. And, it infects a whole lot of food items, from peanuts to your meat to just name it. So these are some of so good food. I mean, clean food is the number one component of a good health value chain. Number two is the processing. the processing and the handling of the food has to be done according to international standards. If you look at our food items, our food value chain, you see food coming in from Benue, like you mentioned. It gets to Abuja. When it gets to Abuja, you go to places like Kuba or Wuse Market, they just throw them on the floor in baskets, dirty baskets. They don't even bother to wash them. And then you come to the market, you pick what you want to buy, you take it home. Some people wash, some don't wash, put it in the fridge, and then you consume a lot of diseases and what have you. So that's component number two. And component number three is ability to preserve the food, because like someone says, you cannot be too rich to waste money. You understand? And you have to ensure that whatever food item you have, you must have efficient ways of storing the food, so that you ensure that you're keeping it clean, at the same time making it available for the future. So these are the three core components of a healthy food value chain. And if time permits us, we will try to analyze all these components to ensure that our farmers and our people, and of course we as individuals, know the right things to do to ensure that our food is clean, is efficient, and of course is healthy, because health is wealth. We cannot keep spending money on ailments. Do you know the amount of Nigerians who have cancers, who have different form of foodborne diseases? And in fact, I can challenge you that you do know that it is almost impossible for you to eat at an outdoor food restaurant, or mama put as we call it, without having diarrhea. It's almost normal, it's almost synonymous with diarrhea, because you go to the restaurant, you see flies buzzing around everywhere and what have you, and then people are just consuming diseases and what have you. So these are some of the things we really, really need to change, and everything starts right from the farm all the way to our table.
I love the way you put that. You said you spoke about all the places people eat. It's almost like the flies want to also buy the food.
Exactly, like they contributed money for the food to say, "Hey, I want my share."
So I was just thinking.
Yeah.
When we talk about food value, we're talking about, just like you mentioned, we're talking about a whole chain,
True.
from the farmers
True.
to the market and everything. Tell us about the challenges that Nigerian farmers face in producing healthy food,
All right.
especially fruits, because you spoke about balanced diet, and you said these days that it is God
The
who
balances
balances.
diet. All right. I mean, everything starts from the farm, really. And unfortunately, we've not upgraded our food production for the last 50 years. And what do I mean by this? You still see farmers growing whole varieties, whole seedlings. In fact, most of our farmers, they just plant whatever seedling they can find their hands upon. They don't actually ask questions to say, you know what, okay, on this particular thing I want to do, what is the latest variety of seeds available for me to plant? And of course, there are so many disease-resistant seeds that they can grow, or plants that would, but so it starts from them, from the planting stage. And of course, after they've, planted their seedlings and what have you, you now discover that farmers do a whole lot of unhealthy practices. For example, spraying chemicals to chase away pests and diseases, because they have not been educated to know that, hey, this is the concentration of chemicals you're supposed to spray. This is the healthy concentration. This is not the healthy concentration. So they just spray chemicals everywhere, because for him, he wants to protect his crop, and you cannot blame him. And unfortunately, most of those pesticides residue are still on our food. And we buy them, because in our markets nobody washes, we just take it home, do our brisk washing. And of course, in Nigeria, we all know not every house has pipe-borne water. So you don't even have enough water to wash the fruit properly, talk less of saying, I want to rinse it properly. Then you eat a lot of pesticide, and then you discover people have a lot of health challenges. So we're basically, again, forgive me here, we're poisoning ourselves gradually. And you discover that somebody will get to age 50, 60, 70, he has this particular cancer or disease. The disease didn't start yesterday. No, it's a gradual accumulation of all those poisons and diseases we've been eating from our market. So this is why this topic is very important, and I want everybody to actually listen to what we're trying to say. So farmers have a whole lot to do.
Okay.
And number two is the food handling. When the food is harvested, right, this is where the wastage comes into play. The farmer does not know which techniques for him to use to be able to preserve those food. He just packs the tomato in all those baskets. If you go to day fruit market now, you see baskets of tomato, they put them on top of each other, everything is compressed. By the time you are buying, 20% of it is already, broken into pieces and is watery and whatnot. And the technologies like crates that they can use, and so many other techniques that they need to learn, so that at least the food will not spoil on the way from the farm to the market. And of course, the challenges on the road, they may spend days on the road getting from Benue to Lagos to Abuja and whatever. So there's a whole lot of things that we really need to go. And I hope we have time to be able to break this down even further.
All right. Okay, now talking about time, it's time to take a break.
All right.
So we will quickly go on a break. When we come back, we'll still be here. Please stay with us. Welcome back from that short break. Yes, Engineer Bayomi is still here, and our discussion is something you need to listen to as all of us eat food, and we need to eat healthy. Now, before we went on that break, we were talking about the whole food chain, and the farmers, how to get healthy food. And you mentioned some challenges the farmers face. What would you say? How can agricultural practices be improved to enhance the nutritional quality of food? Because you had, before we went on that break, you even gave an illustration of tomatoes breaking,
Yes.
and what have you.
Yes. So I mean, like I said, everything starts with the farmers, and unfortunately, not just the farmers. We're talking of farmers, consumers, and business people, because many people have not actually seen the food value chain as a way of making money. And I will explain how you, my listener, can make a lot of money actually in this value chain, even whether you're a farmer or not. And please listen carefully to this. Now, imagine a farmer is bringing his tomato from the farm. You are the supplier of wooden crates that actually prevents tomatoes from crushing each other. Because in Europe, they use all these plastic crates and wooden crates so that the tomatoes, when you stack them on top of each other, the pressure on of the whole thing will not crush the one below. So that's number one. So if you're an entrepreneur, you can be supplying them those crates, and those crates you can make from locally sourced materials. That's business number one. And then once the product gets to the market, we need to create a system that enforces the farmers or ensures that all our food items are cleaned. I have not seen a single market in Nigeria where food items are cleaned before being sold. If you go to markets in Russia and Europe, you discover that before you sell anything, it has to be washed and dried, and then put up for display. So that means there's an opportunity. In fact, at Africa House, we were thinking of a proposal to work with NAFDAC and some other agencies to say, you know what, maybe even you, my listener, can partner with the government to say, you know what, in every market in Nigeria, we'll create like a cleaning center where food products coming from market is cleaned so that it is very healthy. At least we've created the first level of protection for the consumers. So after the food is cleaned properly according to international standards, then the foods are packed. Because who says we must sell our food in mudu by mudu? Who says we must put tomato on this? So why can't we sell it by kg? And in fact, farmers will make more money by selling using standard measures. Because imagine who knows how many kgs one mudu of beans, how many one basket of tomato. What if one tomato is bigger and fatter than the other? So that means you actually make more. So the opportunity here is cleaning the food, packaging the food, so you can be the guy supply those packaging materials, the scales and everything. And then when you go to Wuse market, you see neatly packed tomatoes, cabbages, lettuces on the store. It's attractive. You want to buy it. And of course, in Europe, when you take some of this food, you can open and eat directly because it has been pre-washed. For Nigeria, no, nobody's doing that. The third opportunity here is preservation or storage. There's a lot of money in storage. There was this country I've been to, and I saw, tons and tons of warehouses storing food, cold storage businesses. So that means we as individuals can create like just near the market where whatever the farmers cannot sell, we keep it in the fridge for them. Solar powered fridge, and stuff like that, so that tomatoes does not necessarily have to go to waste. And of course, the excess that we get, let's say from Benue or from Jos, we keep it in this refrigerated storage, and then it becomes a business. And before you know it, we will have tomato all year round. We will have mango all year round, and the excess. And the beauty of this is, if our food value chain is clean enough, we can start accessing export markets. Nigerians don't see food as an export business. There's a lot of money in export. Do you know how many tomatoes different countries export? Do you know how many mangoes? Do you know Benue can make billions of naira from exporting mangoes to different nations of the world? But unfortunately, farmers don't even know that they can export. Their own is whatever I bring, I sell. If I cannot sell, it rots away. So these are some of the things I think that we can do to enhance this value chain, and at the same time, we'll be healthy for it, and we'll be making a lot of money from it. So my listeners, please look at food value chain as something you can make money from. And before I hand over my microphone, you discover that I just want to give one practical example here, so that I just can relate to all the grammar I've been speaking. Look at onions. When onion is in season, it's relatively affordable. But fast forward a few months after, the prices skyrockets, right? What is the major problem? No storage. Do you know that in this Abuja, there's not a single onion storage business in this Abuja? And to build a onion storage, this thing is not that expensive. So with few millions, you can set up a storage near your house or in a farm or somewhere where we can store onions for to last us 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. It uses sophisticated technologies and solar power, by the way. So these are some of the things you can do. At least onions, we all can relate to onion. That's why I use that example.
Onions and tomatoes and apples, the
exactly.
everyday food
Exactly.
that we use. I'm sure you will see that speaking to Engineer Bayomi is always a pleasure. He gives you insight into businesses and lots of things that you could do to make money. Now, Engineer Bayomi, when you spoke about food being sold in kgs. I'm like, a typical Nigerian will be somewhere now and be like, please leave our mudu for us. We love our mudu, leave it for us. All right, now, what role do local markets play in promoting access to healthy foods in both urban and rural settings? You've spoken about washing of fruits, that is of food rather, that isn't done in Nigeria. Are there other things we can do?
Wow, that's a fantastic question because it's an area that, these local markets have failed Nigerians greatly. What do I mean by this? Take a stroll to, let's say, day fruit market, for example. You will see from the entrance to where they're selling the food, whenever it rains, it's mushy, it's dirty, I'm sorry, disgusting. The truth is, we need to ensure that our markets are clean. From the floor, I mean, you see people selling people food on the floor. They put it in baskets inside mud. Sometimes you can't even go to the market. You have to wear a raincoat or what do they call those boots? Rain boots. So the point is, the market operators should see the market beyond just collecting revenue, 200 parking, 300 naira parking. No. Yes, collect the revenue, that's your right. But the point is, invest that money into making the market standard and clean. Ensure that the markets are not infested with flies. There are systems you can put in place to get rid of flies, because whenever you see fly, remember, fly means disease. Just remember that. Anytime you see a fly land on your food or on your stuff, you know what it's doing? It's defecating and laying eggs on your food. That's what flies want, by the way. It's not that they actually like the smell. No. So my point is, the markets need to ensure that all the stores in the market are according to international standards. Don't let people put food on the floor. Let them put it in clean, raised shelves, and ensure that the foods are properly displayed. And of course, they can have what they call like a storage. Like you display your food here, and then the bulk of your food is in the store. When the customer wants to buy in bulk, you go bring it from the store, tell him go to the parking and put it in his boot. Not necessarily display 10 baskets of tomato in the mud, in the sand, when it rains and whatnot. So we need to do more. This is where our local councils come into play. They are the very first line of defense to help us keep us healthy. So please invest in cleaning up the market. Ensure you have a clean refuse disposal system. Not that they are selling food here, the bola is just 2 feet away. So that's very, very important, and we need to create a very healthy system for us to be able to live long, in this wonderful country.
It's always a pleasure speaking with you, Engineer Abayomi. Now, you said a lot of things, but I want you to, summarize the last thing you would want our viewer to remember.
Well, health is wealth. You cannot perform well if you don't eat well. And unfortunately, we're educated group of people. So whenever you buy your food, ensure you wash it properly. Don't be lazy. Say, I don't have enough water. No. Take the time to wash it, because you don't know the pesticide or the residues or the diseases that are already on your food. Because you see flies everywhere. When you see fly, you know that's disease, of course. So wash your food thoroughly before you consume. And of course, invest your money into the Nigerian value chain. The government cannot do it alone. It's a collective effort of everyone. And of course, NTA, they are doing their part. So you also do your part. God bless Nigeria.
God bless us all. Thank you, Engineer Bayomi Onosonia, the Global Director, Africa House. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right. Anywhere we see flies, we see diseases. That's what I have taken on the show. And he has advised us to, we can do a lot. We can create money from the food value chain. Now we go on a short break. When we come back, this show still continues. So please go nowhere. Good to have you back on your darling breakfast show. Yes, it's still Good Morning Abuja, and our conversations are still on. Now, we've discussed widowhood. Anything could happen. It could just happen, and if you're not empowered, what do you think would happen to you? How do you move ahead? We've also seen food value chain, and now we go to our next conversation, which is empowering women through home farming. And I have in the studio Janet Okoli to do justice to that. My guest, Janet Okoli, is a consultant and trainer, a passionate advocate for home farming, and she is value-based. She is a value-based individual on education and purposeful living. Welcome to the studio, my guest.
Thank you.
Welcome. All right, so I read that you are a chemical engineering and now you're into home farming. Can you give us an insight? What passion led you, led a chemical engineer to home farming?
Okay, thank you for having me in your studio today. I'm delighted to be here. Well, home farming for me is something I grew seeing my parents do.
Okay.
So it came to me naturally, learning from them. I was involved in the process. So I see the way the gains, I saw the benefits, I saw how it ensured food security and the kind of peace of mind it brought to the home. So I knew it was something that has come to stay, something that should be sustained. So even when I got married, I brought it along. So I've been doing home farming for over 15 years.
Wow, that's
Yes.
a long time.
Yes.
That's a long time.
Yes.
So when you said you brought it along, we are the bringers of life. We're the bringers of every good thing. So you just had to bring
Yes.
home farming along. Welcome.
Yes,
All
yes.
right. So 15 years. Well, that's quite an experience you have on home farming. Explain to us the concept of home farming and how it can empower women.
Home farming basically is you growing your own food where you live. So it's something you do. For me, it was passion that sustained me because there were so many challenges that came with it. But the gains supersedes the challenges. And in the time where we are, you see a rise of prices in foodstuff.
Yes.
So I don't think we need much, talk about it to dive in, not just go in, dive in. So my own home farming, I used my backyard.
Okay.
In fact, I went a step further from what my parents did. They were basically doing the normal farm you do, till the soil and all that. But with the edge in knowledge that I have, I did container farming, bag farming, every avenue I got. In fact, in between flower beds, I planted and they did well.
Wow.
So I grew a lot of crops around the house. First, I started because I want to produce for my own household.
Consumption.
Yes, my own personal consumption. But at the time, the farm did so well and I couldn't contain it. So I knew that I had to go a step further. So I started telling people, I have this in my farm, vegetable. It was doing well and I had to push myself. I started with vegetables. I planted.
Because I was going to ask what kind of vegetable, fruits, or what kind of crops do you plant? Which ones do well at home?
Okay. To your first question, I started with vegetables, things like spinach, pumpkin seed, that's ugu, the one we call ugu leaf. I planted pepper, I planted tomatoes. So with time, I went into planting trees.
Okay.
Yes. My backyard isn't that big, not that big, but I had up to 20 trees.
Okay.
And they did well. I have sweet apple, red apple, custard apple, tangerines, avocado. In fact, the list is endless.
It's endless, I can imagine. I wanted to ask what kind of space does one need to do that? But you've answered it. You said your background isn't, your backyard
wasn't that big.
Okay.
It wasn't big, but I utilized it well.
Okay.
I utilized it.
Tell us how you utilized it, because when you say you utilized it well, people will be like, okay, what does she mean by that?
Okay. When you have a space, you will think, because one thing home farming gives you, one skill you learn is critical thinking.
Okay.
So that space, you have to think, okay, what will I farm here that I will get more produce even with a little space? Vegetable will go. You can imagine having a little space and you want to plant something like rice. You will harvest, but what quantity? But if you're going to compare that quantity to the vegetable you're going to harvest, you see that you get more with vegetable, something that can prepare a pot of soup for you, and it's something that grow as you harvest,
As you
it grows.
harvest.
Yeah. So you see, you will make better use of that space planting vegetables, planting things like okra, and these are things you need on a
On a
daily.
daily
Yes.
basis. Okay.
So those were what I started with, and they did very well before I went into farming of potato, yam. I did cassava.
At home.
Yes, because I had a space. There's another space in front. So I used that space to plant cassava. I planted potato, and you see the video. I tried.
It's a beautiful story and picture you're painting for us. But how can more women, someone might be watching and be like, oh, okay, I really like what she's saying, but how can I go into this?
To go into home farming, the first thing I would advise is to have the willingness. That's the starting point. Sometimes I go some places and I see people with vast land. As much as you will say, oh, there's no space here. I see it as vast space, big space, because I'm already seeing what I can do with that space. Some people just end up planting flowers. I'm not saying flower is bad, it's good. But in this time we are in, we should do more than planting flowers. We should be able to, ensure there's a kind of food security, at least for your family. And when you have that resources, you use it. So the land space or the little space, some people have big balconies. You can plant in a pot. It will save money. It will ensure you eating healthy. So the first thing to do is having that willing mind or heart to say, okay, I want to do this. Then seeing that the little space you have is enough. You don't have to have acres of land before you do home farming.
Okay.
All you need is the willingness, a little space, and patience.
For you, you saw your parents farming, so you had that experience. But for most people, like, well, what is farming? I don't really have an experience. What type of home farming practices should is more accessible for women? And if they do not have an experience in home farming, what do you advise them to do?
Okay. Well, I saw my parents do home farming, but they were not professional farmers. They just did it like a hobby. They had their businesses, but they were into home farming because the benefits they got from it. So I learned. But if coming from a background you've not been into it, you don't really need any professional knowledge to go into home farming. Some people have casually poured tomato water on the floor, only to come back maybe a week or two and see that something sprouted. Sometimes they just come back and see that there's a fruit. You didn't need any science to do that. You just poured the seed there. Sometimes you didn't even know you poured something there. You just come back and you start tracing. No, I remember one time I bought something like this and I washed it here and it germinated. That's home farming. So you have like unconsciously planted. So if it could happen that way, why not consciously now do it by buying seedlings or just from what you bought from the market? Throw the water there, nurture it, and it will come back to you. That's basically what home farming is. So for women who have not been into it, there's no professional knowledge that is needed to go into home farming. It's something you are doing for yourself, for personal consumption. So it's something you should be free doing, should be happy doing. It's like you are trying to explore. That's just what I'm going to tell them about that. So there's no much preparation just
that.
to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, in very few words now, give an advice to women out there. We should be doing something. Our hands were given for a purpose, our legs and everything. Instead of just sitting or, using our spare times to do whatever, speak to women out there about home farming. Advice you have for them.
The advice I have for women is that home farming has come to stay. And if there's any time we should engage in home farming, it should be now. Every time there's hike in price of food um, items in the market, you could really help your family save a lot of money by engaging in home farming. Home farming is a way to financial independence. It's also a source of food security. It's also a source of living healthy. When you grow what you eat, you are sure what is going into your body. And when you eat healthy, you stay healthy. And apart from that, crops or plants around the house help to purify air, the air we breathe. Okay. So why not take that advantage? Because when we eat healthy, we raise healthy family. Having a healthy family means, imagine having every family have home farm. That means we'll have healthy families, from healthy families to healthy community to a healthy nation.
I love that. Thank you so much, my guest, Janet Okolie, chemical engineer turned home farmer. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
You've heard it all from my guests. An interesting conversation we had there about empowering women through home farming. Let's farm what we eat for a healthier nation. Those were her parting words. When it's Monday, we always bring you money saving tips. Let's see what our money saving tips is for today. To know that you're with us on the Unity Station, NTA Channel 5, Abuja, your grassroots station. Yes, we reach out to everyone out there. Money saving tips has just gone by. When you make money, you spend, and then you still have to save some for the rainy days. Now, talking about rainy days, what will today's weather look like? Let's find out together.